Hello there guys, welcome back to Planet Beer TV where we're continuing Verdant Month. So this week we're going to release the second part of our interview with James, the co-founder and head brewer. In this one we talk more about the beer and branding, some of the names, the artwork and stuff that go into the Verdant series of beers. As ever, if you do like the content, please hit like and subscribe as it really helps us combat the YouTube algorithm. Anyway, enough of me, enjoy the video. So, moving on to kind of like some of your beers then.
Yeah.
You said that obviously Headband and Lightbulb are kind of like the OGs, that's where they all started. Then you've kind of got the duos and the trios.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marylou.
Yeah, the first one would have been, I think Marylou, Neal, and what was Howl, and then we changed the name to Alan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was the first sort of series of beers. And that one's quite an interesting series because it's not just the same recipe bumped up. There are similar, it's got the same hops on the dry hopping, but the ratio in the hops changes. So with Marylou, there's a lot more Nelson, like Nelson and Mosaic are more equally balanced with Citra. And then with Neal Gets Things Done, it's Citra starts to lead the way and Mosaic and Nelson start to drop back, and then Alan even more so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think some people think it's just a true kind of exactly the same recipe, kind of just exponentially increased, but it's not really.
You're letting another hop kind of take the centre.
Yeah. So if you're into Nelson, buy Marylou. If you're into Citra, buy Alan. And if you like both, buy Neal. And if you like them all, buy them all.
Yeah, all bases covered.
Yeah. It's probably worth just talking about the names and the branding, because that's really one of the key things. So we've all got a bit of an interest in Beat Generation, hippies, poetry, all that kind of stuff. So Marylou was a character from On the Road, Jack Kerouac's book. I don't know if you've read that. If you haven't, you should. Neal Gets Things Done, that's based on Neal Cassidy, who was a character in the book On the Road, but he was called Dean Moriarty in the book, but his real name is Neal Cassidy. He then drove this amazing hippie bus in the 60s called Further, and he was the driver, constantly on acid and speed, and as everyone was at the time, especially on that bus. And that bus and whole hippie movement was started by Ken Kesey, who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So it's all kind of interlinked, and Howl and then Alan was based off Howl, the poem by Allen Ginsberg.
Okay, what was the logic behind renaming Howl to Alan?
We got a cease and desist. I can't remember who from.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it changed, you know.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if it's not broke, don't change it.
Yeah, exactly.
The beat kind of style definitely shines through the artwork. That kind of like 60s-esque, psychedelic artwork and stuff on the punk clips and the can art.
Yeah.
Things like, because I think Trumpets is also Baby Fruit Car.
Sort of. I've never written a recipe like that, really. I played trumpet on that tune, so I'm getting funny looks from these guys. I played trumpet on that tune. was originally quite a West Coast beer when we brewed it first time. So it was clear, bitter, Chico yeast. And then I can't remember the second time we brewed it. It might have been at this site. It was at that point where I was like, you know, we haven't got a citrus single hop New England style IPA. And I think that would be a tastier beer than what we brewed first time with that. So then it's become this other thing. So occasionally these beers evolve. Lots of times they don't. They're very, you know, recipe 1's very similar to recipe 400 or whatever. Yeah, Fruit Car's definitely its own thing.
So obviously there's a kind of theme of light or lighting that I've noticed in some of the, like, because you've got light bulb,
I've often thought about
10 watt moon, 20 watt moon, and obviously some of the glassware that you've got, the shirts, you've got that light bulb design. I mean, what's the origin of that? Where's that come from?
Poor eyesight, really. Yeah, in the evening time. No, I think so. Light bulb. It came about with the kind of brief that we gave ourselves for that beer was light, really light in colour and feel, and zesty flavours, sessionable. And I think someone said you know, as light as a 100-watt light bulb, you know, and then that just kind of stuck. It was that simple, really. In terms of the watt series, I don't think there wasn't any kind of preconceived notion of it being based around brightness or wattage. I don't know where that came from, actually, but it turned into a nice series, you know.
It's just one of those, when you see it once, you're like, oh, that's a thing.
Yeah.
See it twice, you're like, there's a theme.
Yeah.
Maybe brewing
I guess
here.
20-watt moon was the first one. So I don't know who came up with that name, actually, but I can imagine looking at a moon and possibly a bit inebriated, and you know, someone describing it as, it's kind of got sort of a 20-watt brightness to it.
Pure, like, out on the terrace chatting shit.
Or in one's garden, stood on the patio at an hour you shouldn't be stood on the patio.
So there we go. I had a really great time interviewing James. He's a really great guy. I could have chatted to him for hours. So for a bit of added value, while we were down there, Paul from Planet Beer TV sat down with Billy, the head of sales, and they did a bit of a quickfire round on where some of the Verdant beer names come from. So here's that little snippet of the Beer Name Quickfire Round with Paul and Billy.
You've got some really interesting names for your beers. I'm just going to throw a few names at you.
Yep.
And if you want to tell us the meaning behind them, that would be great. So let's start with I played trumpet on that tune.
So I don't know what tune it's referencing. I don't know. That's a really, I think that was first brewed in 2017, maybe. We also did I played bass on that tune.
Oh.
And I played double bass on that tune.
Oh, I didn't know about those.
But they were in 330ml cans, that's how long ago we're talking.
Oh, wow. Keep Left.
Keep Left. So that was originally a collab with Equilibrium, who I think they were over for Hot City, and they came a bit early to come down here and brew with us. And Will Rivera drove and just spent the whole time with jet lag, just going keep left, keep left, keep left.
And maybe my favourite, Don't Tell Gus.
Don't Tell Gus. Gus was somebody who was involved in the business a few years ago on the finance side of things. It was quite an expensive beer to make at the time, and it was just, don't tell him, because, you know, it's better to seek forgiveness and ask permission, right?
Pro tip, never tell the finance department anything. It helps. I've got one last question, probably the most important question, actually. Okay. You've recently brewed a beer called It's Pronounced.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a cheeky little, we're going to use the term deep cut again, the fact that people mispronounce the brewery name constantly. So I just want to really clear that up here. So I'm basically going to ask you, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
Cool, cleared it up.